Welcome to the HMK YouTube channel. Today I'm showcasing the Rivet Lock series and talking about its history, where it comes from, how it's made, and I guess you could say it's a history of HMK in a nutshell too, because the journey that's from point A to the point where I'm making the Rivet RLpikal and RLpuukko is really what defines the product. This is the Rivet RLpuukko. This one in particular is number 14, and I picked it out early to test and abuse test and to use on a daily basis, to get used to the design, to look for anything that might cause a worry. So this one is not even, this one's quite different actually from some of the most recent let's see, designs. The rivet lock mechanism has actually changed into one that I do when the blade is finished and cold. At the end. This particular rivet has to be done when with forging. It's done with rebar iron. It's not quite as convenient for the end result is actually, this is better, this is much better, and this is also sort of more inconvenient to do. So this was the best solution for the rivet lock mechanism, which is where the RLpukko, or the rivet lock name comes from. It's from this mechanism that locks the kydex sheath over the rivet. This way you can safely yourself wrap a handle however you wish, and you don't necessarily need one either. Here's one with. Very streamlined, as you can see. And those are slightly earlier models still. Now they look a lot more like this. So you can see that the general shape, a lot of the stuff has stayed the same. And mind you, each one is unique. This one is number 14, this one is number 117. And I've decided that I won't necessarily be wrapping the katana sheet wraps around it on all of them. I'm just going to continue forging these and making these finished, and then if somebody wants me to do a wrap for them, I'll do it at a fee. And I do have instructions in my YouTube channel. I have a video on how you can do it yourself, the katana wrap, so that you can just practice and do it yourself, and it's quite safe with the sheath there to learn. So the Rivet RLpuukko it's made in Finland, and in Finland we have a traditional design of the puukko that everybody knows and is familiar with, and it's generally used for whittling wood and carving. It's an extremely effective bushcraft blade. It's a favored one amongst basically everyone that uses it, and a lot of that performance comes from having a Scandi grind, basically a zero grind, really steep, made of carbon steel traditionally, and then when you remove the burr, you just go over the and add a new micro bevel on the edge. Just go over get a stone. Once after you're done, when you sharpen it, you just sharpen the bevels like this to make it as thin as possible behind the edge, and then you just finish it off by taking the burr off by creating a micro bevel like that, right? And this gives you just such a sharp, bitey edge that's so nice for carving wood and making fires, which is essentially, I think, you know, in many cases what the puukko is mostly used for, if not necessarily mostly, but often most of, like a good deal of the RLpukko's usability comes from its ability to be used to make fires effectively. This is the exact same. So this is the RLpikal here, number 100. The serial number is the same for both. So they're both the RLpikal and the RLpukko carry each other in the same serial number series because it's about the rivet lock concept, which both of these are. And the reason they stay in the same serial number range, the two, is because they're both forged with the exact same methods and heat treating using the exact same methods. So they're pretty much identical, except for when I'm forging the RLpikals, I just do a couple different things. But otherwise, you could say the manufacturing process are identical. Each stage is the same, which is why I wanted to keep them both into the rivet lock series, which includes the RLpikal, this one, and then the RLpukko, this one. Let's see if we can grab a... See, I can do one with a camo sheath, and they do really come in all shapes and sizes. The taper starts here, and it's the thickest there. So, put this one on the side here. These RLpikals, they're amazing. I think they're one of the best, if not the best, EDC carry blade that you can have with you. When it comes to sort of administrative tasks, when it comes to all the sort of tasks that most EDC knives that are being carried today are used for, I believe this blade shape is inherently a better design to do all those particular tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis when we live in suburban or city environments. It's not an objective thing, it's just subjectively. I've carried all sorts of blades, you know, all sorts of blades on me for the last 2 decades, you know, and they've always been, you know, traditional folding knives, you know, blades that are more, that all point upwards, you know, things like the traditional style, the traditional shape of a blade. And it's fine, it works really great, but as soon as you start to get used to using the RLpikal and you actually have it with you for a while, you start to realize, like, yeah, this is actually way better for most of these tasks. Now, granted, this blade is not particularly good for, you know, cutting food on a board or carving firewood and a lot of these things. The two together will solve all your problems, all your tasks. The two together, that's an ideal combo right there when it comes to EDC. So you got the RLpukko and the RLpikal, and the two together will allow you to do all the forest stuff, all the carving stuff, all the administrative stuff, and it's very, very easy to carry on you as it's so narrow and smooth and quite pretty. Now, these particular blades, they're each forged from a third of the circumference of a coil, a modern coil spring that is used in these industrial dampening steps that are placed under massive generators, diesel generators and such. Here we have an example of that. And we cut corners, thirds out, all the way around, and each third is what's then processed into this blade through a method of hot forging, cold forging, and a very complicated water and oil heat treating system that's multi-stage and quite interesting, and the final product is grounded under lots of water cooling. So very professional setup. I've talked with many, people around the world who are metallurgists by profession, by trade, machinists, engineers, teachers in universities for metallurgy, discussed with people in Japan, and a friend and I have decoded many Japanese texts of master Japanese kitchen knife makers and the such, writing their notes down. So we've gotten really far over the last couple of decades to create a product that gets the most out of a reclaimed material that's very accessible to me. There's a lot of modern steels out there, but a spring steel like this, when heat treated and done properly and forged and finished just right, is absolutely amazing knife steel. And you can't really go wrong with toughness when it comes to a proven modern manufactured material designed for pure toughness. So you're not gonna have a knife break on you, that's for sure. The Rivet RLpikal, an upcoming update or progression to this series, is the full-sized, or I would call this the medium Pikal. So we have the RLpuukko. So this would be the Puukko S, and this would be the Puukko M, which is absolutely stunning. I'm really pleased with this. I think it looks amazing. The difficulty with these is when you have a product that's designed to be in a particular way and you scale it up, you start to realize that there's other things that make it much more difficult to do, because the steps and the stages that were all included into producing these become much more labor intensive as soon as the blades start to get bigger in size. So even though it looks nice, it'll be significantly, and it looks very similar, and it's not much bigger, it'll be significantly more expensive because it's actually a lot more difficult and a lot more work to do these each. The one thing missing here is the rivet lock mechanism, and it will show up. I would like to find other materials and experiment with other materials, but currently what you see here, this is essentially a guard. I've made many of these, hundreds, and when it came to getting the size of the blade to this medium knife size, I wanted something physical in the center of the handle before the string. When it's like this, it's totally safe. This stays on extremely tight. But when it comes to a medium-sized knife, I really wanted something that was physical there. And so what this is a strap of iron that's been carefully folded over the blade, with 2 holes drilled through, very, very small holes, couple millimeter max, and then had some iron pins to keep it in place, very much like World War II era bayonets, guards and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's like a Japanese finish RLpuukko. It's like a Japanese style, forging with a RLpuukko vibe and World War II era bayonet construction, mildly, very lightly. So I think this is really cool, and it's gonna continue, but definitely not going to be a cheap one. We'll see how it goes. I think I'm gonna use another steel than this, because this steel is excellent for a blade like this, the smaller ones. But I think when it comes to a blade this big, I might as well use like a kitchen knife steel to really push the bar, because the amount of effort that I put in each one of the large ones is so much significantly higher that I think instead of using reclaimed spring steel, I should use the 115 CRV3, which is an extremely high quality kitchen knife steel, and under the exact same heat treating process is quite amazing. Now, where did all this come from? Where did all this... Well, where did all of these designs come from? Where did all this work originate from? What created the first RLpuukko? Well, let's go back one step. And that's here. Now this is my personal Pecca series blade. And you can find these on my website also. And I've made many videos showing these. Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful EDC style blade. They're very chunky, got a very thick spine, forged very thin along the edge through the same process, the exact same process that was used to forge the RLpuukko and the RLpikal, right? But much more difficult. You see, I discovered a process of forging which greatly increased the quality of my blades. It was and went through many experimental stages and a lot of practicing. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of blades were made with this style, which eventually led to the RLpuukko. But this is one of the series that were essentially forged the exact same way, but each much more unique in design, in the sense that there's actually like metal coming out and very intense tapering from spine to edge and tip to ricasso and pommel to ricasso. These are awesome blades, and these are much more difficult to make than the Rivet or the Pikals. They take a lot more force and a lot more time, and but very popular design. And these went up to almost 100, if I remember correctly. I think maybe we'll have to see about that. I don't remember exactly how far I went. This one in particular is number 55. So quite. And this is the Pecca series. So this is the series that came right before the Pecca, the RLpuukko and the RLpikal series. And the forging style has been the same ever since. It's just here with these, this has been simplified. So you can see very similar hammer texture surface, and actually if you look really closely and you know what to look for, you'll see that they're actually very, very similar, except that this one's, except there's just much more forging involved with one of these. Now that was the Pecca series, and the Pecca series actually came from a series before that was called the Buckthorn series, which we have here. And this is the first prototype for the Buckthorn series, which was essentially a paring knife that had full steel design with just a simple single layer wrap handle. You know, the handle is just cosmetic. The wrapping, essentially fully forged single piece paring knife concept that's, you know, completely usable for skinning. So it was like a skinning / paring knife, full steel, carbon steel, forged concept. And it was on this particular blade, I think, that I figured out this new method of forging that has given me such wonderful results for such a really long time. So mind you, between this particular knife and this particular knife, there's been between these two blades, there's been hundreds and hundreds of knives forged in the same method. And you know, it's spring steel too. So the heat treats pretty much stayed the same. Everything's just been perfected and you could say simplified, as my elbows need to age gracefully as well. So with this is the Buckthorn blade, and you can see very clearly that it's got great properties for skinning and also paring knife work. And a lot of my customers who use this actually also use it for carving wood and doing stuff outside. So you could really call this like an overall utility blade. which stems from paring knife design. So it's kind of like if you were to take the paring knife into the forest, a beefy paring knife with high quality, good quality edge, really high quality metallurgy, super high, like the most that you can get out of the spring steel to maximize the edge retention, and really nice, comforting design, very, just tapers everywhere, very light. So from this, we went to this, which is actually the serial number 1 of the RLpikal series. And you can see that there are actually some similarities. But I wanted to make a series that was basically an executive knife that you would be able to carry with you everywhere. It has martial arts qualities. You can skin with it. You can take it with you, you know, on a suit. It's very stylish. You use it for everything. And that's what I did with my own particular RLpikal that I showed you just recently, the 55. So it is obvious that there are actually similarities, but those similarities were then stretched out into sort of different functions on the metal, with the RLpikal being much more centric around tough work and EDC, closer to a hunting knife than a paring knife. And again, same very, very thick taper on the spine there. So after making 50 or so in the buckthorn series, we went to the RLpikal series, which I think was actually around 60 to 70, not 100. And you notice that this was the RLpikal series. The locking mechanism is very much like we see in the industry, where the kydex is actually pushed into the wrap on the handle. So the first knots actually make the lock. And you see this on all sorts of mainstream products. And I realized when, you know, after playing with all that this needs to change. I need to have another system for that. And that's where the birth of the rivet lock mechanism came to place, is where I realized that I need to focus on the metal, I need to focus on the steel, I need to focus on utility, I need to focus on longevity, I need to focus on the customer and what's good for them in terms of, you know, in terms of safety. With the sheath being a clip-on like this, it is safer than with the paracord string. And, you know, it's unique. It's not something that you see super often. Here is another blade from the RLpikal series. This one is number 15. So you can see, very beefy, very nice, very professional, very thin behind the edge. It has those martial arts qualities, but it's also so thin behind the edge. You could use it for cooking if you wanted to, but you could also bring it to the office to do some stuff there. You can bring it with you to your hunting trips. You can do everything you want with these, and it won't rust either at all. This finish on steel just prevents water from going through. So the next upgrade from this particular series, these RLpikals, was not necessarily, you could say, so much anymore about experimenting with shapes and designs. It was about using a simple concept, using the manufacturing methods, simplifying the process to create the maximum quality product in a sustainable way that's consistent. And that's what the RLpuukko is. It's the culmination of years and years of forging from the RLpikal series. No, this is buckthorn series, sorry. From the buckthorn series to the RLpikal series. And all the way to the rivet lock. And you can see it, they are still evolving. Each one of these is made with very strict procedure. I'm in charge of making every single one of these from start to finish, whether it's the handle, the forging, all of it, the grinding. And each one of these brings us closer to sort of an idealized concept. And for me, what's important is to have a design that I can focus on perfecting for the rest of my life. Something that I can produce thousands of. I'm already at 120 something, you know, and that's not even from, you know, going full on. It's actually quite relaxed, convenient forging. So these come in at 60 euros, the full steel model. If you want a wrapped handle on top, that's an extra 49 euros. So your final price will be 150 euros if you want the wrap on it. So not bad. The Kydex sheaths, they're all black, but I can do custom stuff if you come and DM me and send me some messages on Instagram. The Pecca base mode, even the small ones, they're 80 to 100 euros each. Again, these are much more difficult to grind properly, and they've got a much higher failure rate too. These have an almost zero failure rate in production, the RLpuukko. The Pickals, they have a slightly higher rate of failure in production. So, and again, they come from the coil spring. And in each box you will get with you a strop necklace like this with some white compound. Something like this, right? And then you can keep your blades nice and honed. And with a Pecca especially, remember I have a video on this, go look for it. When you draw back, don't go beyond the point. The tip never slides across the stone, otherwise you're going to start blunting the tip. When you drag, you go backwards and the tip barely touches the start of the stone or the strop or whatever you're doing before you swap over to the other side, or just do a few like this. So with the RLpuukko design, it doesn't matter, everybody knows how to sharpen these. These are super easy to sharpen and hone, but again, it'll come with a strop like this in the package. You'll have a string long enough for you to hang around your neck, and a string that's long enough for you to hang around your waist. And I have a video on how to carry it around your waist and how to strap it around your neck and stuff like that. The Rivet lock Pickals, they do come in all shapes and sizes. This one here, this tiny one, this is number 108. It's an absolutely adorable, really, really good design. Has no serrations, this particular one. Here is one with some small serrations, 102. What a great blade. I love Pickals. I'm making a lot more of these now, since the Rivet RLpuukko stash is quite nice and full at the moment. So I'll be making more of these. This is 111, as you can see. Very, very useful design. And they do come in all sizes. And then if you want a specific thing, of course you come contact me. It'll be the same price. I don't need to do a custom order price necessarily if we stick within the same parameters that are used to build these, to build your custom order. So if you want one that's, you know, a specific, you know, same overall profile, but just a change in some area or whatever, we can discuss. There's certain parameters, and it'll come through the discussion phases. With these Rivet RLpuukkos here, this one is 115. As you can see, very charming blade. It's really something that you can fit between the layers in your backpack if you're going camping. It's a super resilient design. It'll be around in 100 years. Again, all shapes and sizes. Here's an interesting one with a really thick spine, cut slightly differently than the others. But it's a really, really fun blade to have. around. You can really hear that click. This one here is 84. These are all on the website currently. Really tall, nice Scandi grind with a micro bevel finished on a 10,000 grit stone. All shapes and sizes. This one's quite miniature. These are excellent for skinning. These are really, really good for skinning. They're really good for carrying around, leaving in your pocket. They're very easy to carry in the pocket, even with the wrapped handle. And you can see how nice and beautifully streamlined the whole package is, because the paracord layers are about the same thickness as the kydex itself. So the knots are the only things that actually pop out, but everything else is streamlined, so it's ideal. And then you got the knot at the back that acts as sort of a pommel. So quite a wonderful package, and that really fits nicely inside pockets. I like to carry these just as is in my pocket like this, although often I can also put a string around a belt loop from here and or hang it around my neck. But I like to have the Pecca around my neck, and I like to have one of these in my pocket, and then when I need it I just boop, like that, and then pull the blade out. So you can use the rounded area here on the sheath to push your blade out. So this particular one, 117, is online as well on my website. $110. So you can see here that we have, this is 114, so 112 here. So this one, this particular Pecca was stamped only a couple knives after this was stamped. So you can see the serial number, production phase, that they overlap, which I think is really cool. So that was it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed that, and these knives are all available on my website. I put all my love and care and heart into this. I want to kind of bridge the gap between sort of an artisan, a bladesmith, knife maker, manufacturer, kind of all into one philosophy where I can offer a super high quality product that's very simple, like this Rivet RLpuukko, from materials that are also commonly available in my area. I can do whatever steel you want for this. Not all steels can survive the process of making this particular knife. There's actually steels that will always fail and crack in this process. So, but we'll see with that later. And again, it's taken years, decades, like 2 decades to really reach this point where I'm finally making something that's actually like ultra high quality product, and at a scale where it's everyday repetitive and close to some type of old school manufacturing style, you know, forging and grinding. And you can find all of this on my website, hotmetalknives.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at hot_metal_knives, and or follow for more videos on YouTube. I'm gonna try and do 1 video a day, but we'll see. Thank you for watching.